got the question from our client. There were a couple questions there, but basically her question was about, is there a seller rush? A rush to get their home sold before the market tanks, before it crashes, before the bubble bursts, all these wonderful stories we're starting to hear. So,
Right.
I guess what I wanted to share is what she sent me, which was, let me go ahead and share here. Um, yeah.
Right. Articles, the uh, subject lines these days are always put out there to capture your attention, right? They're trying
Well,
to
yeah,
they're trying to feed a belief that you already have,
right,
often,
right, and
or
and
create
that's
fear.
after I read it a couple times, I gave her our answer that we feel very secure about when people ask these sorts of questions. But when I started reading it over and over again, I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. I think this is clickbait. I think this is a headline just to draw in readers, just to draw in hopeful buyers, to give them a little ray of sunshine. But when you read the article, uh, yeah, it's up for interpretation. So let me get through it real quick. It is
You,
from Red. Go ahead.
I was going to say just one quick note on that,
Yeah.
on your comment. You bring up a very interesting topic because this specific company who wrote this article is very much about drawing in more buyers.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that works in their favor. This headline does a lot.
All right. Well, here we go. Housing market update. Sellers rush to find buyers before demand weakens further. So this was published, the 19th, May 19th. New listings climbed sharply, and the share of listings with price drops reached 2.5-year high as early stage homebuyer demand declined. Homebuyers may finally start to notice signs that the market is shifting towards their favor. More sellers came to the market during the 4 weeks ending May 15th. New listings climbed nearly twice as fast as they did at this time last year, and the share of listings with the price drop rose to its highest level in 2.5 years. Homebuyers continue to pull back in the wake of record high purchasing costs. Mortgage purchase applications fell to their lowest level since May 2020, and the number of homebuyers touring and offerings on homes, as measured by the Redfin Homebuyer Demand Index, posted its largest annual decline since April 2020.
Yeah,
Still,
I
go
don't
ahead.
think we're in a position to dispute any of this stuff, but it's always a matter of in what proportions,
Yeah,
and that things were so out of balance. I mean, so far out of balance that an adjustment in those directions does not, it shows maybe a movement, but it's not a market shift, which they identify early, which is, that's inappropriate in my
well,
opinion.
and that's the thing. We'll start running these numbers, and you got to think twice about them. So, still, desirable homes are getting scooped up at a record pace, a median 15 days on market. And that's the other thing, as you're saying, Darren. I told her, I said, this is a national view of everything. She lives here in LA, and she's looking in San Diego and LA. That's a whole other story right there. Rising mortgage rates have caused the housing market to shift, and now home sellers are in a hurry to find a buyer before demand weakens further, said Redfin chief economist Daryl Fairweather. Not only are more homes hitting the market each week, but sellers are dropping their prices at rates not seen since before the pandemic. This sudden pressure on sellers is good news for those home buyers who can still afford to buy at today's higher mortgage rates. These trends point to an even cooler market this summer. Okay, buying season. Let's get going. Leading indicators of home buying activity. So, fewer people search for homes for sale on Google. Searches during the week ending May 14th were down 11% from a year earlier. Okay. The seasonally adjusted Redfin Home Buyer Index, a measure of requests for home tours and other home buying services from Redfin agents, was down 8% year over year during the week ending May 15th. This was the largest decline since April 2020 when the pandemic paused most home buying activity. So I wouldn't say that Redfin is the whole market. So, but it's nice to see they're watching all these numbers for themselves. Touring activity from the first week of January through May 15th was 25% points behind the same period in 2021, according to home tour technology company Showing Time. Again, Showing Time, as you know, Darren, we don't like using it. I don't think a lot of agents like using it. So it's a
Sure,
nice
it
number.
could it, it,
Nice
it
number.
could be a specific demographic that it only affects.
Yeah. Yeah. Mortgage purchase applications were down 15% from a year earlier, while the seasonally adjusted index decreased 12% week over week during the week ending May 13th. Now, these things are happening, right? We just spoke to one of our lenders.
Clearly, all of
Yeah.
these things are happening. I don't think that's being disputed, and they could be signs of a shift towards a little bit of a balance in the market. And again, I think the continual thing that's going to ring true is that it's been so out of balance that a movement does not indicate a shift. It does indicate maybe for a moment moving towards some stability.
For the week ending May 19th, 30-year mortgage rates decreased slightly to 5.25%. Okay, so key housing market takeaways for 400 plus US metro areas. Now, I'm going to show you a map of another study of 400 US metro areas, and that's another interesting one. We might even need to pass that off to the next live stream, man. There's so much going on here. Unless otherwise noted, the data in this report covers the 4-week period ending May 15th. Redfin's housing market data goes back through 2012. Data based on homes listed and or sold during the period. The median home sales price was up 16% year over year to a record $398,500. I don't know where that house is, but all right. The median asking price of newly listed homes increased 18% year over year to $416,425, a new all-time high. The monthly mortgage payment on the median asking price rose to a record high of $2,447 at the current 5.25% mortgage rate. This was up 43% from $1,706 a year earlier when mortgage rates were 3%. Pending home sales were down 6% year over year. New listings of homes for sale were down 0.6% from a year earlier, the smallest annual decline since March. New listings climbed 15% from a month earlier compared to 7.8% increase over the same period in 2021. Active listings, the number of homes listed for sale at any point during the period fell 15% year over year. 55% of homes that went under contract had an accepted offer within the first 2 weeks on the market, up from 54% a year earlier, down 1.5 percentage points from the record high during the 4-week period ending March 27. Yeah, I don't know if 1% is that much. 41% of homes that went under contract had an accepted offer within 1 week of hitting the market, up from 40% a year earlier, down 1.5 percentage points from the record high during the 4-week period ending March 27. Homes that sold were on the market for a record low median of 15 days, down from 19.7 days a year earlier. A record 57% of homes sold above list price, up from 49% a year earlier. On average, 4.4% of homes for sale each week had a price drop. Overall, 17.8% dropped their price in the past 4 weeks, up from 12.1% a month earlier and a 9.5% a year ago. This was the highest share since October 2019. The average sale to list price ratio, which measures how close homes are selling to their asking prices, rose to an all-time high of 102.9%. In other words, the average home sold for 2.9% above its asking price. This was up from 101.5% a year earlier. So I don't know if you can kind of get it, Darren, but for me, I kind of felt like, oh, this is kind of dicing some small numbers into even smaller numbers to try to get some importance out of it. But there are some numbers here to think about.
Yeah, and part of our conversation has been about the people trying to predict the future, people living in the present. So this window, this snapshot of 4 weeks that they're working off of here is, I was trying to quickly define. I mean, we're not lenders, but we're in tune with it. So it's basically in a period where there have been 2 large interest rate hikes. So, of course, the visceral reaction to that market is, "Oh, I'm pulling back." And historically, markets, well, of course, things don't go in one direction. We always have little downswings, little upswings. We're in the middle of a downswing, and that downswing is related to large interest rate hikes. And we're already seeing in the last 2 weeks after this article was
Mhm.
published that interest rates have been floating back down. Now, let's see a month from now. What does that equal with all of this activity? Um, so it's a snapshot. Again, I'm not questioning the snapshot. There's something that could have triggered a lot of those negative market components. Will
Mhm.
it continue to move in that direction? Or is that just a blip in a different direction or a stabilizing, an initial trigger for a more stabilizing component, which means more inventory. The inventory has
Yeah.
been anemic, it's
Yeah.
ridiculously low. So yeah, buyers have given up. Then you hit the buyer with and we've experienced this personally, of course. You hit them with you have no inventory, and now you're going to pay, a point higher on your loan in addition to that. Some of them just said, "Hey, I'm just putting a pause. I'm just hitting the pause button, man.
Yeah.
To see what happens." So
Well, I put this in the comments so you guys can check this all out yourself. Um, you know, and we'll share some numbers later as we go into our solds and actives. But yeah, great numbers here to consider. But there are other sources, there are other data points, and so what I wanted to share was um, Fortune, Fortune magazine. Let me close out of this. Here's the story. The odds of a home price decline hitting your local housing market is told by one interactive chart. So, again, I think the headline from the Redfin article was obviously to elicit some hope and some business, hopefully, out of buyers, looking for a positive spin that maybe prices might be coming down. Here we've got Fortune. Basically, they worked with CoreLogic to come up with the odds of a regional home price dropping over the coming year. So it is interactive. It's very cool. If we go to Los Angeles, there is a low chance of prices dropping. But if you want to move out to Lake Havasu, Lake Mead, I guess, right? Kingman, all that. High chance that you're going to get some declines there. And then right next door, Prescott Valley. Where's another spot here? Bend, Oregon, high chance, and so on. So again, I will put this in the comments, and you can check out your own neighborhoods and maybe where you want to move to. Maybe this will be a guide.
yeah, and we're in this interesting snapshot of time, right? And there's always push and pull in the market. Well, there's been a lot of push for a long time. Now there's a lot more people stacking up on the pull side, right? Is that all of them are trying to predict the future and by looking at the past. So that's the Redfin article looking at the past, saying this is real things. Great. Is it going to affect the future? Not sure. But more people are talking about it now, and there's more conversations out there and articles coming out.
Yep.
That alone could impact the market if that perpetuates, if enough people believe it and get on board for a market shift. But only time will tell.
Yeah.
I think the sources, a lot of the sources we read, still talk about stabilizing markets, still some price increases for the year, maybe not 25%, but stability and small growth in our market at least.
Well, so I'll just read this paragraph, and I think this helps out. We should probably break this article into another show, but anyway, it goes, even in the face of soaring mortgage rates, CoreLogic still thinks the chances of prices declining in 2022 are fairly low. Why? The real estate research firm points to the mismatch between inventory and the strong buyer demand. That's also reflected in its national forecast. Over the coming 12 months, CoreLogic predicts U.S. home prices are poised to rise 5%. That would mark a deceleration from the 19.8% jump posted over the past 12 months. But it's
Right.
hardly the relief priced out buyers are seeking. So there you go. That's kind of
Yeah.
in a nutshell what we're talking about here.
It's always hard as a buyer to continue to chase an uphill market, particularly one that's moving fast. If it stabilizes or levels off, that they'll find a comfort. So it takes time to become. I mean, we've all been there. We've been buyers, and
Yeah.
if you're writing offers at 700,000 one day, and a month later you're having to write offers at 800,000, it feels unstable.
Yeah.
But if you wrote it at 700 today, didn't get it, and 700 tomorrow and didn't get it, maybe 710 the next month, you're like, I feel great about this, fine. So even leveling off will create a sense of stability and bigger commitment from more buyers in the market, in my opinion.
Well, this is interesting. So the other map they have here is CoreLogic also calculated whether local income levels could support local home prices. The finding, CoreLogic says 65% of U.S. regional housing markets are overvalued. That includes every major market in states like Arizona, Florida, and Texas. Just 9% of regional housing markets are what CoreLogic deems undervalued. 26% get its normal label. So, once
Where are
again,
we at there?
let's see.
I think we're one of the
Uh,
highest.
let's see. Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim, overvalued for sure.
Yeah,
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 yeah. But
yeah. Always, it's been a struggle, and for some time, I remember this being front and center a long time ago. Uh, just became normalized. That the ratios don't work, which is why so few can buy in a region, but yet homes are still selling. The question becomes, if the inventory jumps, will there be enough buyers? That's the only time that dynamic is truly going to shift, become a buyer's market.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so we'll see how this all pans out. I think 2023, right, might be a better indicator of where prices are going to move. They've certainly slowed down, as you said. Uh, Prices are still going to remain high for at least in our area for sure. But yeah, maybe if you're out in
Right.
Prescott, Arizona, you're going to see some real action.
Well, there always are, but there are big economic components, cost of gas and oil and transportation and availability of supplies post COVID or semi post COVID, Um,
Well,
so
one of the things that I left her with is, and anybody who has an agent, and if they don't, they should go get one, is I said, tell me where you want to buy, and let's do a study of that area, and let's see what's really going on there. Not just the past, as you said, 3, 4 weeks on a Redfin article, but let's really look at your defined neighborhood and see what's going on there. Because we know it changes block to block, region to region, neighborhood to neighborhood, and that's really what it comes down to. So
yeah, and for a lot of people, the compromise of, okay, if you can't afford where you want to buy, what are other options? Start exploring other options.
and, well, one thing. Let's see if I can find it. I hadn't showed. Oh, here it is. So, real quick, again, just as an example of the data and the reports that we can bring out for people, is I did this off the MLS, and this was just a look, Darren, at 90039, 26, and 65. But, and this was from May 2022, and I just did single family, no particular parameters or specifics, but you can see here homes for sale in 90039, May 31, and 26, 90026, 75. That sounds really high. And then in Glassell Park area or Mount Washington, 78. So, and then it's got here comparisons of 90039 and 21, there were 61 homes for sale at this time versus now 31.
Right. So you can say, referencing the Redfin article, inventory can double and we will be at 2021 levels. And it's not like that was a buyer's market. That's that's something a good perspective.
This is just an example again of what we can pull out with a personal discussion about where a buyer might be, where a client might be. So now, Darren, I know you asked for the last 4 weeks, and this will segue into our solds, notable solds. But let's see here. Let me pull it out.
So as you know, we we announce every week. We talk about a little bit of new listings and sold listings. And we're always we're looking at the numbers, right? What direction is the inventory heading in on a weekly basis? 1 week doesn't change the market. But we're looking for trends that we can identify. And we've had 2 weeks in a row now where there is a substantially larger amount of new listings than there are sold listings, which means an inventory increase. 2 weeks doesn't make a market, but it's something we'll continue to watch because it's a big enough number that it's worth watching. Again, could be triggered by some of those articles if this is it. I got to get out.
Question. Yeah, that was a question I had. I was like, okay, well, how much of this is just regular spring and summer season versus, the big story that's happening
right now. And
it's probably a combination, right?
Nobody can predict that at all. Right. This is why we want to track it over a longer period. We're doing our best to identify the history as quickly as possible and identify a trend. But it's there. We're pointing it out. So be aware of it. We'll continue to track this and see if those ratios continue to be so far off.
And on the sold side, starting from 426, it's definitely dropped. But again, that first 3 weeks, it's kind of even for the most part between 28 and 24. I wouldn't call that a trend, like you said. But this last week it did go down to 12. So
right.
Let's look at a couple of those 12. Let's see here.
And the ratios, I can't see the numbers on your screen there, Joe, but so the ratios this week are 12 solds, and what was our amount of actives?
46.
12 to 46. So, 4 times as much.